Brace yourself. On social media, Gordon Borrell is saying these words. He's saying local media is at a tipping point, just as likely to tip into oblivion as to survive. Okay. Powerful words from Gordon Borrell. Welcome to E&P Reports. I'm Mike Blinder, publisher of E&P Magazine. Gordon, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. It's always a delight. Our relationships goes way, way back, and it's always a very frank discussion with you, Mike, and I appreciate that.
I got to tell you, you are now number one. This is episode 284 of E&P Reports, a weekly vodcast series. That means we've been doing this for a few years. I looked at back, and let's see, Jarvis 5 times, Danielle Coffey from News Media Alliance 6 times, Dean Ridings, America's Newspaper. Gordon, you're number one 7 times. I want to show you the jacket we've designed for you. Keep in mind, sir, that the logo has my face in it. Would you be comfortable wearing that if I give you your official 7-time jacket for E&P Reports? I'm curious.
As long as when anybody ever says, who is that guy, I get to say whatever I want. Is that all right with you?
That's fine. Okay. Those of you that are tripping along this on a podcast platform, you got to watch the video. I'm showing Gordon a jacket with my face on it. But let's get to work here. This is a very, very interesting report. Your 23rd annual local advertising benchmarking report will be released to the general public for free later on this month. Is that correct?
Yeah, we've never done that before, and if you know me well, you know that caused a great deal of heartburn and consternation. But I was convinced, Mike, that after 25 years of being in business, 23 of releasing this particular report, which is a big missive, compared possibly to Mary Meeker from Kleiner Perkins, doing her big annual report. Well, this is not about all advertising. This is about that 36% that stays in local markets. And giving it away for free is a big leap. We're foregoing some income here, a pretty significant amount. But honestly, Mike, the comment you made about me saying it's being at the tipping point. Well, if you're paying attention, I said that last year too. So this is me saying, son of a bitch, it's still at a tipping point, and guess what? Some people are going to tip the hell off. So trying to make it a little more dramatic and saying, you have more a chance probably of failing than you do of succeeding if you're not paying attention to what's going on. I believe, this is the last thing I'll say, that if we as a company truly want to serve the local media industry like we say we do, we got to get this report into the hands of people for free. Many, many, many more people. And the industry, by the way, is too frickin' cheap to be able to pay for it, to shell out money. So there you go. Read it.
All right.
So it's my swan song.
We have an advanced copy. We're going to break it down. We'll dig into what's working, what's broken, and what Gordon Borrell and Borrell Associates thinks it's going to take to stay in the news media game after this break.
This episode of E&P Reports is exclusively sponsored by Blocks Digital, formerly Town News. Even though the name has changed, their commitment to the media industry is as strong as ever. Blocks Digital is now even better positioned to deliver integrated solutions like content management, audience development, advertising revenue, video management, and more. Join the over 2,000 news publishers worldwide that power their ongoing digital transformation with Blocks Digital, serving over 141 million monthly users who view over 6.5 billion pages of content each year. You can trust Blocks Digital to empower you, to connect you at scale with the community you need to reach. Blocks Digital, formerly Town News, now reimagined to help meet the news publishing challenges of tomorrow and beyond. Learn more at blocksdigital.com.
All right, Gordon, let's break it down. You said local media is at a tipping point, equally likely to tip into oblivion as survive. Your words, not mine. What are the top 2 things pushing it towards survival, and what's pushing it the other way?
First of all, as being kind, I don't think they're equally likely to tip into oblivion. I think they're more likely to tip into oblivion. In the report is a graphic that shows the amount of R&D investments by big Silicon Valley companies, probably 18 to 20 of them, as a percentage of revenue. And it goes from 4 to 5% from companies like, Netflix, all the way up to 40% of revenue by Meta, and something close to that by Google. And you also have Hulu and you have Spotify, all these competitors that are reaching into local markets and clawing out some of this local money. We examined the public statements from filings from 18 media companies, basically local media companies. I don't want to make this bet with anybody, but I think they can, because I think they can probably predict it and I would lose. I bet you can't guess how many reported R&D expenses. The answer is zero, none. It's not there. So yeah, there are many reasons for that, but damn it, if local media isn't ready to gamble and invest some money in their survival and start growing again on a consistent basis, you ought to tip the hell over the edge of the Titanic and go drown. I mean, why are you even in the business? It's certainly noble, and you can go find some private funding to keep you alive. But is that really sustainable? Get serious about this business. You have an enormous value proposition to advertisers, and you're just not communicating it well. And apparently you don't believe in it, or your management, your ownership does not believe in it. And that's where I put the responsibility in the laps of the management.
You point out that 85% of local media companies are capturing less than 10%. Let me say that again. 10% of their obtainable digital ad market share, and that is local dollars. Why are so many underperforming? What are the few best practice players doing differently? I mean,
first of all, let's explain obtainable digital. That's the amount of digital advertising that local businesses spend on digital advertising with local media companies. It's not the amount that goes out of the market and will probably always to the pure play companies. It's the amount that they say, yeah, I'm willing to buy some digital advertising from this newspaper, from this TV station, from this radio station. So that percentage, let's say 100% of that obtainable, that layback in advertising, you're not going to get. So what's reasonable? Most companies are getting 2 or 3%, which means they're not getting 98%. They're never going to get 100%. Because they have other competitors in the market, other TV stations, etc. The best practice ones we look at are getting more than 25, 30%. That's 3.5% of media companies. These are the people, I'm sorry, that makes people sound stupid or smart, but there's a lot of in between. These are the people, that 3.5%, that get it. This ain't about your content. This ain't about journalism. This ain't about all those noble things that are great. This is about making enough money to keep your business operation alive.
How much of the underperforming in Borrell's research do you uncover is about sales skills versus product mix? Like are we training wrong or selling wrong? What's going on?
That is the great question. We just had a fairly long conversation about this yesterday. This would be May the 14th in our offices. And Mike, I don't know the accurate percentage, but it's a lot. You can train them to, go to water, right? But there is so much. I'll give you one key example. Something I think can be changed. There is so much wrong with sales staffs. You can give them leads. You can give them the best products. You can give them competitive pricing. You can communicate with them with the strategy, but if that dumbass sales rep doesn't know how to, pick up the phone and make 20 calls a day or 30 or 40 and hear, because it's going to take, 40 calls to get one yes, right? Your freaking strategy is going to fail. So here's the one thing I want to tell you about. In the report, we've discovered that there's been a very significant increase in the number of new businesses since the pandemic. We all thought and heard about this influx of new businesses that were created. So Bob, who worked for an HVAC company and they shut down because nobody was putting HVAC in or whatever, decided to quit and start his own HVAC company. He had lots of those. But you would expect a number of them to fail. And they did, because they didn't know what the hell they were doing. And you would also expect traditional businesses to fail during the pandemic because they didn't know how to navigate it. The net effect of all those new businesses, all the failed businesses and everything is record growth, a big leap in the percentage of new businesses added every year, or the percentage of total businesses in the market. So why that's important, Mike, is this influx of all these new businesses means that they're pretty much invisible to local sales teams who are on this treadmill in an old way of prospecting that uses their eyes and ears. Guess what? A lot of these businesses are invisible because they're not advertising, or they're advertising in a targeted way, and you're not going to see them, on your screen or even on your television, which is now targeted advertising. So the prospect methods being broken, there's one other piece to this that makes it really dramatic. Prospecting methods being broken and sales reps not seeing them. Guess what businesses created during the pandemic are more inclined to be increasing and buying? You're going to die. You're going to have a heart attack. I probably already
actually
told
know
you
it
this.
because I saw it in the report, but go ahead and say it.
I'll just say I don't know, or just
Okay,
guess
I don't
something
know,
like
Gordon.
search engine
Could
marketing,
it
so we can make it
possibly?
dramatic.
Okay, it must be social media, right?
It's newspapers, damn it. It's newspapers and radio and TV. So let me tell you the statistic from surveying 1,100 local businesses across the country. If they are 5 years old or less, 3 years established 2 years ago, etc. So these are post-pandemic businesses. If these businesses are 5 years older, 5 years younger or less, they are twice as inclined to increase spending in radio, TV, or newspapers. Also more inclined, by not that much, to increase spending in outdoor and I believe in direct mail.
At direct
So,
mail, yeah, I was about to say. All right, so
well, direct mail
let me
is
ask
the
you this.
amazing anti-gravity medium. We could do a whole different show on direct mail.
This was mind-boggling that I saw in there, and you just said there's an appetite for traditional legacy media within the new business growth in these local markets. Your data is now showing that daily newspapers are the only media type, legacy media type, with zero, count it, big goose egg, digital revenue growth since 2020. Yeah. What's holding them back? Is it culture, leadership, something else? We used to be, when I say we, I mean the local news publishing used to be the dominant force growing digital in markets until 2020, and everything stopped. What's happening?
Owners have focused newspaper companies more and given them more rewards for containing expenses and maintaining profit margins than being innovative and taking risks. So there isn't much incentive. Tell me a company that has big bonuses. There may be a couple out there in the scheme of things that has big bonuses for, doing something really innovative that generates money. And I'm going to be adamant about the generating money part. It ain't doing something really innovative in news. Oh, wow, look what they did. Oh, by the way, how much did you make with that? Nothing. That's not sustainable. That's admirable, but not sustainable. Screw that. So it's, to me, it's the owners. You can blame it on the managers and the publishers, but if they're not part of the ownership, the only thing I could fault them for is not, rattling the chains enough and just saying you're screwing us over as a company. You're screwing your self owner over as an owner. And by the way, having the balls enough to say, I'm going to quit if you don't do this. So, I'll maybe fault the management for doing that, but I understand people need to have incomes, they need to support their families, and it's tough enough to get a job, especially most of these publishers who are in their 50s and 60s and don't have much, I don't mean to laugh, I'm in there, don't have much of a job prospects, beyond what they're currently doing. I understand all that. The owners, the question I would give to them is really simple. You want your business to grow again, or are you just satisfied with managing it down? And Mike, if they're satisfied with managing down, fine. That's a decision. I don't think they've made that decision. I just don't think it's been posed to them that way. Do you want your business to grow again? There's a path to that. Give me $1 million. And I'll show you what that path is. And it'll be money better invested in your own company and the belief in your own people than it will be in the stock market or in a CD or, whatever else, real estate or whatever else you're going to buy. Let's do it. This is your company. So that's the big problem. It's at the highest level.
All right. So culturally, the traditional news publishing, that legacy industry, from the top down has a culture issue. But I want to pose you this question, and I hope you don't mind, because it may not be in the data, but I want to see if it's in your axon and dendrites, Gordon Borrell. We're doing a webinar this week on hard paywalls and how they're stifling content distribution and audience growth at the same time. Could this be a factor in that flat digital revenue trend among newspapers as well? So many hard paywalls in so many cities now where they're churning out content. Some are winning Pulitzers for that isn't being seen by like 90% of the local audience.
Yeah. The paywall, the industry has gone back and forth on it. And frankly, so have I. You should be charging for valuable content. People will charge for it. People will pay for it. Well, I think we have 25 years of proof that that's not the case. The mantra back in the late 90s, you may remember, was information wants to be free. And, the internet was born and everything was free. And we kept wondering, how, wow, you could make money off of free classifieds like Craigslist. And today, how much are they making? Over $1 billion a year off of the free classifieds model. So you got to take a look at, the bigger picture with the internet, where distribution is free. You don't have to pay for delivery trucks. You don't have to pay for a broadcast tower or a transmitter, a website, internet access. That's it. The delivery its costs are borne more on the receiver than the sender. And then you have to go, well, creating the audience and making the audience bigger. He who's got the biggest audience wins. Then you begin to go, oh, screw the paywall. That doesn't make sense. New York Times is the exception, but New York Times is not a local newspaper. No. It's not a local TV station or a local radio station with much, much bigger challenges. They made $1.2 billion off of digital-only subscriptions, 1.7 billion last year in subscriptions. Very, very different animal. And what you're doing is you're limiting your audience and you're turning people off. And you're forgetting, Mike, the extreme frustration and squirrel-like attention span of people on the internet. How we've all been trained by, say, TikTok, like, oh, yeah, I'm going to read this headline. I'm going to click here. Wait, I'm only getting a sentence. Click here to subscribe or log in. Oh, screw that. They won't even log in. So I think it's one of those tough changes that if you make it, I think you'll be happy.
All right, I got to ask two more questions because you just said it, the attention span of a squirrel. When these things go on about longer than 20 minutes, we watch audience drop off, so I try to hold these things to 20 to 25 minutes. Mm-hmm. Okay, so here's my final two questions. How many pages is this thing you're releasing for free at the end of May?
68.
68. Out of that, what's the one metric, if you were a news publisher, you track above all others to measure whether your local news org is truly future ready? Is there one metric in there you'd keep your eye on and want to see?
Well, in the report itself, in the organization itself, it would be different. But let's say what you're asking me is, if you look at the report, what metrics should I look at? Go to the third chapter in the back. If you're a newspaper company, go to the newspaper section. If you're a radio company, go to the radio section, which is a stupid thing to do, by the way. But hey, it's a start. You're not a radio company. You're not a newspaper company. You're a media company, and you have this medium called digital, which isn't newspapers. Don't make me go down that path. Find the relevant market share. Go all the way in the back of the report, pick your market, see how much obtainable digital revenue is, and then don't be disappointed that it's 1.2%. Be excited that there's 98.9%, 98.8% of revenue available to you, and get excited about the size of it. That's the way the entrepreneur thinks. I'll tell you one other thing. If you look at those numbers and start discounting them and saying, those numbers can't be right. I'm wondering where those numbers come from. Oh, well, this is the reason, or that's the reason. You should quit. I mean, you're not thinking like an entrepreneur. You're thinking like a guy who, or woman who, wants excuses, doesn't like the fact that they're not doing well.
Final question. And I go way back with you. I was on the stage of your first conference in New York City. I don't know if you remember. You had me up there on a panel, and I've attended every one ever since. You've been tracking this space for 2 decades. What's one thing you thought would happen by now that hasn't? And what's one thing that surprised the hell out of you that did happen in those 20 years? I know that's a tough one. I should have prepped you on this one. One thing that you thought would happen by now, seeing the numbers back then that hasn't, and what's the thing that surprised the hell out of you?
Well, I'll probably go way back into channeling the, 2001, Gordon Borrell when I started the company, when I was in my 40s. I was still steeped in the fact that I think many newspaper people are, that newspapers were big, formidable, and nothing could take them down. And they were filled with really, really smart people. And they had journalism on their side. TV wasn't real news, right? So that I brought that haughtiness with me. And so if you went back to the 2001 Gordon Borrell, and the 68-year-old 2025 Gordon Borrell leaned in and said, "Hey, Gordy, newspapers ain't doing so well. They're sucking wind. In fact, their total share of the local market is less than 4%, including what they make in digital." I say, "You're crazy. You're an aberration. Get out of here." So that's the one thing that really shocked and disappointed me.
What did happen that surprised the hell out of you in 20 some odd years? You didn't see coming.
What I think surprised me is the sustainability and the growing roots of the business model, that you have to lose money in 2 to 3 years, which wasn't so unusual way back then. But in such a way that you grow your audience to a phenomenal size, and then you turn on the revenue valve. And, I think that kind of has gone, just because what you said, and I'm glad you did, about, hey, what about this idea about subscriptions? Well, we looked at Google for 3, 4, 5 years, wondering how the hell they were going to make money. It was just a search engine. Stupid. We looked at Facebook for a very long time and figured, well, how are they going to make money? They were building the audience. And then when they got so far away from their competitors, here's a clue. You can do that in your local markets. When they got so far away from competitors and providing really great relevant content, that's when they turned on the revenue engine. And advertisers, people with wanting messages to be aired, glommed to them. They rushed to them and threw money at them. And that's the model you have to institute at the local level. That's what I see occurring with, Connoisseur Media's recent acquisition of Alpha Media in radio. That's what I see Town Square doing in radio in local markets. Some select local, newspapers.
Gordon Borrell, CEO of Borrell Associates, I have to say, one of the sharpest minds in media forecasting. His firm has just released its 23rd annual local advertising benchmark report. Gordon, thanks for your valuable time. We appreciate it. This is your 7th appearance on E&P Reports. When you come back for the 8th, we'll see what other wonderful pieces of my face could be put on different parts of your body.
I think a hat would be more appropriate for a bald guy. So
there you go. Thanks,
get it
Gordon.
to me before I lose even more.
Thanks for your time.